श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रम् धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणम् वन्दे रम्यजामातरम् मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भाम् नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणम् प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः।
श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रम् धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणम् वन्दे रम्यजामातरम् मुनिम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणम् प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः। So we continue with the study of the Mumuksupadi. So we have completed the study of this year 76th Sutra. Ukarattai vivarikkirade namasse, akarattai vivarikkirade narayana padam, akarattai vivarikkirade chaturthi narapadamennum solluvarhal. As we studied earlier, the pranava or the Omkara, which is the first word of the Ashtakshara Mahamantra, consists of 3 syllables, namely Akara, Ukara and Makara. So the entire gamut of meanings that need to be conveyed by the Ashtakshara Mahamantra is in a way concisely mentioned in the Pranava only. So the word Om, Namaha and Narayanaya are in a way the detailed exposition of what is known as Omkara or Pranava. The manner in which the meanings of Namaha and Narayanaya are mentioned or concisely mentioned in the Omkara or Pranava itself is being explained here. So in the Pranava we have 3 components, Akara, Ukara and Makara. Among them the Ukara is the representation or the meaning of Namaha is explained by Ukara. The meaning of the word Narayana is explained by the word Akara. And in the word Narayana, I have 2 components which I have explained in detail earlier. The word nominal stem Narayana and then the dative case suffix, which is Aya. So that is explained by Makara, according to one school of thought. Another school of thought is the meaning of Makara is explained by the word Nara. So in the word Narayana, you have 2 words that are embedded, that is Nara and Ayana. So Naranam, Ayanam, Naraha, Ayanam, there are 2 ways of explaining the compound which forms the word Narayana. So I am not explaining that here because Swami Padladokacharya himself is going to explain that in great detail. So the meanings of Akara, Ukara and Makara are explained by the word Namaha, then the word Narayana and the K suffix that is heard here in the form of Aya, Narayanaya. As I mentioned, Narayana is the nominal stem and Aya is the dative case suffix. So this is how the three meanings that are conveyed by the pranava are explained in further detail as Om Namo Narayanaya. Several questions may be raised here. If pranava itself explains these three, then what is the need of having Om Namaha Narayanaya, three 8-lettered mantra? So you can, it suffices with only one letter. Then why you have three? So the answer, I don't know whether they have specifically raised this question. As far as I could see in the commentary, they have not raised the specific question. But many a times mentioning something in a very concise manner will not serve the purpose. So you have to have what is known as both the concise version as well as the elaborate version. That is why there is a saying in Sanskrit which says, Yuktam hi vidusham loke samasa vyasadharanam. Both the aspects are required in the sense samasa dharana. Knowing something very concisely is also very important. And trying to explain that in a detailed manner and knowing all the things in a detailed manner also is very important, is equally important. So that is known as Vyasa Dharana. Vyasa means Vistara or expanded form. So you have to know something in both its forms, namely Samasa Dharana and Vyasa Dharana. So in some cases, only the Pranava or Omkara will suffice. For example, in the Tiruvaradhana Krama that is given to us by Ramananda Acharya and several others, they will say Pranavena Kumbhamuthapya or something like that in either the Tiruvaradhana Krama or other rituals, where only the Pranava is ordained to be chanted. In some places they say Shadvaram Moola Mantrena Abhimantriya. So you chant the Moola Mantra or the Ashtakshara Maha Mantra 6 times, 12 times, 18 times, 24 times, etc. So these are all done with a specific purpose in mind, not done randomly. In some places they will say Pranavena. You chant only the Pranava. In some places they will say Moola Mantrena. For example, when you actually, in a Tiruvaradhana Krama, you have the 5 different vessels in front of the Supreme Lord, and when you offer the Tiruvaradhanam or ritual puja. So then you first what you have to do, you have to have a main pot, which is known as Tirukkaveri in Sanskrit as well as in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. First you have to actually do Abhimantrana, you have to make it fit for consumption of the Lord. For that several procedures have been mentioned. And then you actually take the water from the Tirukkaveri or the main pot and put it in the five main vessels. That is Arghya Patra, Adya Patra, Achamana Patra, then Snaniya and Shuddhodaka. Some places they have one more, some places they have only 3, some places they have 5, some places they have 6 also. Let us not worry about the detail unless you are very much interested in that. So at that time, Om Namo Narayanaya Arghyam Parikalpayami. So you actually designate each vessel as Arghya, Padya, Achamaniya. Arghya means water that is used to wash the hands. Padya means water that is used to wash the feet of the Lord. Achamaniya is to wash and offer to the hand as well as the mouth, or offering to the Lord. Then Shuddhodaka and Snaniya, before the Snanasana, That is the second of the asanas. Asana means you should not confuse it with the asanas that are taught in yoga today. The Tiruvaradhana Kramam consists of 6 asanas, namely Mantrasana, that is, you wake the Lord by chanting the designated mantras. Then Snanasana, you bathe the Lord. Then Alankarasana, is that one you decorate the Lord. So after, it's like actually, to put it in a very practical manner, the Tiruvaradhana is nothing but what is offered to a child by his or her mother until she goes to bed. From the time she wakes up in the morning, she or he, the child wakes up in the morning, and then until he or she goes to bed. So after bathing, Alankara. So Alankara is what? Decorating. So first the divine body or the Divya Mangala Vigraha of the Supreme Lord has to be actually what is that word? To do with the towel. The water should be removed, the residual water after doing the Abhishekam. So you wipe the divine body or Vigraha of the Supreme Lord with a towel, and then adorn new pure clothes. Then you may adorn with all the jewelry, etc., whatever is there. And then you offer the flowers. So this is known as Alankarasana. So Mantrasana, Snanasana. Snana is bathing the Lord, then Alankarasana. Then Bhojyasana. Then you offer the offerings, whatever is there. So minimal what they have mentioned is fruits. Otherwise, if you have cooked rice afresh for offering to the Supreme Lord, you have to offer rice to which ghee is added. So without adding ghee, you should not offer rice because it is mentioned as a big apachara or sin. So ghee, because ghee is also known as Anna Shuddhi. That is another big topic in itself, why it has to be done like that, etc. And that is Bhojyasana. Then Punarmantrasana. After offering the Bhojyasana, you have to do the Punarmantrasana. Once again, you chant all the mantras, right from the Vedas, the Divya Prabandhas, etc. There is Mantra Pushpa Krama is there. In Melkote and other temples, it is followed even today. And even in personal Tiruvaradhanams, in the temples, it is followed. I don't know about Srilangam, what is the procedure there. Because each Divya Desha has its own procedure. And in many Divya Deshas, the procedures are lost. And that is another big problem. But in the Griha and according to Agamas, I am sure Keshadas and all of you would be knowing. Alaya Archana Krama is different and Griha Archana Krama is different. The Alaya Archana Krama means the pujas that are conducted in the temple. That is quite different from the Griha Archana Krama or the puja that is offered in houses. Because Alaya Archana Krama is actually for the welfare of the entire city or town or village, whatever it is, and ultimately for the benefit of the entire humankind. Whereas Griharchana also, of course, we say Sarvejana Sukhino Bhavantu, etc. But mainly it is for the welfare of the head of the family. Of course, when the family system existed, now it's almost on the verge of extinction. So the head of the family has to do the puja and his wife has to assist him in all the things like preparing the food, preparing the lamps, cleaning the puja vessels, then wiping the floor, etc. in front of the Lord and putting what is known as this Rangavalli or whatever you call it. I don't think there is any word to mention that in English. So they use what is known as, earlier they used to use rice flour to decorate the place. Nowadays, some people still use rice flour, but they use a little different type of white mud, which is powdered and made ready to be to decorate it. They will do it like this. And there is the aspect of art, etc. also involved in that. So the lady of the house is supposed to do all these things. That is, clean the portion. Then we call even the, what is that? I think it's a very incorrect word to use, box which houses the deities. It is known as, in Shiva Vaishnava parlance, it is known as Kovil Alva. Even the box in which the deities are housed, it is known as the Kovil Alva or the Temple Alva, which means since it houses the deities, that box also is greatly revered. And that box itself is considered to be a miniature of Vaikuntha. That is why even when the door has to be opened, door of that Kovil Alvar or the box, it is to be opened. Before that, you have to do Karatadana, you have to clap your hands and do certain procedures and then open the Kovil Alvar. And after offering all the things and Shayasana is done, that is, I was mentioning about the asanas, that is, then you have the Punar Mantrasana, and after Mantrasana, you have Shayasana. Shayasana is making the Lord sleep. So after that, you have to once again close the doors of the Kovil Alvar. That is also a very important ritual that is included in the puja procedures itself. So it's like you say Chanda Dvarapalebhyo Namaha. And in Vaikuntha, you imagine it to be Vaikuntha, and you have the four. Vaikuntha is said to have four different entrances: east, south, north, and west and north. So Chanda and Prachanda, Kumudaksha, like that. All the details of Vaikuntha. Who are the two Dwarapalakas or doorkeepers on either side of the doors? So first you actually prostrate before them, and then only you have to open the Kovil. And then finally, after offering everything, you close after the Tirtham and Prasadam is distributed. So it's a very important family affair. It's a get-together of the family also, because even in my young days, when we were all in our village, so by the time Shattumarai is done, all the people in the house should come. They should participate in the Shattumarai, and then when the head of the house gives the Tirtham and Prasadam, everybody should be there and take it. Even when it is still going on in many houses even today, but it has become a rarity because the children, parents, grandchildren, etc., they don't stay in one place. So it's all what we call nuclear families and things like that. So it's also an occasion for a family get-together, which is done, which happens every day with a religious and cultural fervor. That is very important. So these are the ways that, and this is the way that the family and all the people would interact, and there would be a lot of what you call camaraderie or whatever you would like to call it. So bonding of the family takes place, and people are all in one place together, enjoying each other's company, etc. These are all very important. So after the Shayasana is done and all the Tirtham and Prasadam, etc. is distributed, then the doors of the Kovil Alvar has to be closed. So that is also, and for each of these events, specifically you have words in Sanskrit, in Tamil, which is not prevalent in regular language Tamil. It is prevalent only in Shiva Vaishnava Tamil. So Shiva Vaishnava Tamil is a separate Tamil, which is actually quite different from the regular language Tamil which people talk. So they will say Tirikkapu Shekar. Even now we use the same word. Tirikkapu Shekar means, it doesn't literally mean that closing the doors, but the implied meaning is you close the doors of the Kovil Alvar or the Sanctum Sanctorum, whatever you call it. In English, they call it as a sanctum or something like that. It means it is a very place of great sanctity or whatever it is. So this is another very important thing of where we actually the Sri Vaishnava Paribhasha, as we call it, Sri Vaishnava technical jargon, where you don't say that a person Oh, a person eats. You don't say saptacha. Sapada means just eating. But it is known as amudu shahidacha. Amudu shahida means you actually convert the food into amrita and then consume it. So that is why when the thing is offered to the Supreme Lord during the puja or the Tiruvaradhanam, we call it as amudu shahid. Amudu shahida means the Lord, by consuming the food, he converts ordinary food into amrita or nectar or ambrosia or whatever you would like to call it. So that is amudu shahid. So these are all very, very important, unique aspects of the Sri Vaishnava faith. And also, when we actually talk about the different dishes, so curry, curry is a word that is there in English as well as Tamil, but we don't say curry amud, we say shat amud, tirikkannan amud, etc. So the word amud means nectar or ambrosia. So that word is added to all the different dishes which have different names. Like payasam is known as tirikkannamudu. Amudu is added. Then curry. You don't say curry, you say curry amudu. So rasam is known as shat amudu. So like that, amudu is added to all the words. That means when you actually partake the food, you have to, with what mentality you should partake the food. That is also very important. See, all this is a huge, it's a colossal amount of information, and also these are all embedded in life when you live in that atmosphere. Now we have lost that atmosphere, so nobody knows that thing. So when you actually consume the food, you have to consume it as if it is amrita or ambrosia that you are consuming, which has been converted into ambrosia by the Supreme Lord partaking it. So it is the Shesha, Bhagavat Shesha and Bhagavata Shesha. So Bhagavata Shesha, how it becomes? So you have to, all the people have to sit in the same, what we call as pankti, or in the same room. And there, what has to be done is, when the Parishechana is done, Parishechana of course is not mentioned in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, it is done as part of the partaking of the food as per the Vedic tradition. So there what has to be done is, when many people are sitting, the senior most person should first take the portion. So he has to tell, in the morning he has to tell, Satyam Tvarte Naparishinchami. So first the prokshana has to be done, Om Bhurvaswah. Some people do prokshana, some people actually do pradakshina with the water itself for the food. So there are two schools. Once again, there are several schools of thought with regard to each of them. Let us not worry about them. But each school has its own value. Not that this is incorrect or that is incorrect. One school gives greater prominence to one aspect. Another school gives greater prominence to another equally important aspect. So after doing Satyam Tartena Parishinchami, Amritopastaranamasi, you have to first partake of a small amount of water. So how much amount of water also is mentioned, that's a different thing. Anyway, that will, already we have digressed so much, but I hope you are not minding it's okay that we have digressed. Okay. So there what has to happen, the first, the senior most person has to actually take the aposhana. Aposhana is sipping of the water, nothing more than that, but it's some more significance, not the literal translation alone. So after the senior most person partakes of the aposhana, all the others have to take. And then we do the prana ahuti, this is known as the grasa mudra. So with the grasa mudra, we have to actually mix the rice with ghee, and that ghee mixed with rice has to be taken like this. So that is prana swaha, apana swaha, vyana swaha, udana swaha, samana swaha, brahmane swaha, Shri Govinda, 6 times it has to be done. So after the main person takes the pranahuti, it is known as prana ahuti. Once again, that is very, very significant. It has to be explained in great detail. It is, you are offering the havis. Havis is the offering that is given to the fire. So that is why it is known as havis. Havis means pure rice that is not mixed with any other item except ghee. That is known as havis. That is offered in the yajna to the fire god. So here also you call it as prana ahuti because the fire of prana that is making you live, you are actually offering the havis to the prana ahuti, that is prana swaha apana. These five are the five vital layers. Prano panas samanascha udana vyanau cha vayavaha hridi prano gude panas samano nabhisamsthita. These are the 5 years which are sustaining the life in our body. So not only are they airs, they are also in the form of tejas or agni. So this offering of rice is for the 5 pranas or 5 vehicles. Then Brahmane Swaha, Shri Govinda. Then Brahma, and then ultimately everything is offered to the Shri Govinda or Lord Narayana. So the others who are sitting in the Pankti are in the same line, in the same batch. Now the Pankti means batch. So after the senior most person has taken the pranahuti or has taken the morsels of rice 6 times, then the others should take. Then it will become Bhagavata Shesha. It has already become Bhagavat Shesha because the Lord has partaken it and given it to us as prasadam. Not only it has to be Bhagavat Shesha, it has to also be Bhagavata Shesha in the sense those who are closest to the Lord are known as Bhagavatas. Bhagavataha ime Bhagavataha. That means who are constantly thinking about the Lord alone and nobody else or nothing else. Such a person is known as Bhagavata. So even if it is offered to Bhagavan and it becomes Bhagavat Shesha, if it is not Bhagavata Shesha, it's not fit to be consumed. Therefore, the others have to partake after the senior most person has partaken. Then it becomes Bhagavata Shesha. Shesha means leftover, not in a derogatory sense, but in a positive sense. So since the senior most person has taken it, the other portion is left over. Whatever he has not the remaining food. Therefore, the others should then take, then it becomes Bhagavata Shesha. So this is how the methodology of food was practiced in Sri Vaishnava philosophy or Sri Vaishnava tradition rather, where these are the things to be followed. Then finally, once again, Amrita Apidhanamasi, then finally, after the food is completed, the process of having the meal is completed. Then once again we take water, which is known as Uttara Poshana. It is the subsequent Poshana or sipping of water, which is Uttara Poshana. After having Uttara Poshana, you should not have anything. That is it. Until night. So you are supposed to have food only twice a day. So you means not you, any particular person, all of us. So nowadays they will say every 2 hours you should consume something, eat something. And every 3 hours you should not keep your stomach empty or things like that. You should eat small quantities many times a day. All this is not acceptable according to Ayurveda, or it's not acceptable even according to the tradition. So there is a long story behind it, why it's not acceptable, etc. Now, once again, the theory earlier until last 2-3 years or something like that, we were listening to several theories that were propagated by the Western medical fraternity, which was blindly followed in India, that you should never skip a breakfast. Actually, the word breakfast has no meaning because he has not fasted at all. The Westerners have concept in Sanskrit, In Tamil, there is a saying, kindly don't mistake me. So the people who lead who are these menial laborers, like those working in the construction industry and others, for them, as soon as he washes his face and brushes his teeth, he will become hungry. Whereas for a Brahmin, because we all don't consume any food without taking bath, as soon as he takes bath, he will get hungry, which we all experience in our life. But the people who are in the labor class or whatever you would like to call them, I don't know whether it's right to mention like that because it will be termed as discrimination or something like that. So it's not discrimination, it is distinction. Let us understand it first. You can see that. So many people, they will have coffee while they are in the bed itself. They will not even wash their faces or brush their teeth. When they are in the bed itself in the morning, then immediately take coffee or tea or whatever it is. Then they will go and brush their teeth, wash their face, etc., which is totally incorrect. So without having bath, we don't take anything. Even today, we are following that tradition. So if we take bath late, we don't take until 1 o'clock. If we don't take bath because of some problem, we will not even have one morsel of food until then. Even now, my father follows that. If he suppose some days he will be engaged in some work, so he will have to take bath at 1 o'clock. Until then, he will not even have one morsel of food or even one drop of water. He is 84 years old and he is hale and healthy. Why I am telling this is because we are all given to understand that you should never skip a breakfast because it will affect your health. That's what the Western theory is, which everybody was following until now. All of us used to have, even in my younger days, nothing in the morning, no question of any breakfast, only lunch at 1 o'clock, 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Until then, if the children are very young, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, they'll have some milk or something like that. No question of breakfast. And when are you fasting? What do you mean by fasting? The Western concept is you go to sleep at night at 10 or 11 in the night and get up in the morning. Is that considered to be a fast? Even that is considered to be a fast by some because people think they should eat at that time also, which is totally incorrect. That is why it is there is a joke which generally is mentioned in context of eating. So a doctor instructed a patient, sir, hereafter you should have only 2 idlis per day, nothing more than that. Then immediately the patient asked, are you telling before food or after food? Would you get what I told? The doctor told, you should have only 2 idlis, nothing more than that. Then immediately the patient asked, should I have 2 idlis before food or after food? So that is how people think it is. So therefore, all these things are very important, very specifically mentioned, and these are associated with health issues. It is good health, religion, philosophy. All these things are embedded in these things. So that is why I said Alaya Archana Krama is different, Griha Archana Krama is different, and in Griha Archana all these things are embedded. So the Sri Vaishnava culture is found in all the aspects of life. So that is why eating is Amruta Shayirna, that is partaking of something that has been rendered into the form of Amrita or nectar or ambrosia. So that is how it is. Any questions with regard to what we have already?
So Swami, Tirumantram is used in the Tiruvaradana, even though in the Alaya Archana, in the temple worship, in Sri Rangam, according to Parameshwara Samhita, they're using Dwadasakshara, and in Kanchipuram they're using Sadakshara, and in Melkote they're using Astakshara in in the temple worship, but in the houses everybody is using Astakshara.
Yes, because you can see in the Manavada Mamuni's Nitya Grantha or Ramanujacharya's Nitya Grantha, it is mentioned Moola Mantra. Shedwar Moola Mantram Japitva, like that they have mentioned.
What about Jir Padi Tiruvaradanam? Doesn't Manavala Mamuni say Dvaya mantra should be used?
They have used both. That is Dvaya mantra and Moola mantra. That is Ashtakshara Mahamantra. In some cases it is Moola mantra. In some cases it is Ashtakshara Mahamantra. That is Dvaya mantra. So these two are used regularly all over across the Tiruvaradana Kramam. These two are what are used. But see, according to the Agamas, they may have specially, like you mentioned, Dwadashakshari, Shadakshari, etc. So, fine. That is because these Samhitas are authored by the various sages. So they might have had special purposes in telling, do it with Dwadashakshara, do it with Shadakshara. Even the Punya Vachana Krama, for example, is different in the Agamas and what we do in the Samskaras. So in the Samskara you do, that is the Vedic ritual you do with Pavamana Sutta. That is Pavamana, Swarjana, Pavitran, that is you charge the sacred water with. Nowadays, we have scientific evidence to prove that the ions of the water are charged by the mantras. This is very important actually. So you have the water in a pot, and in that pot you have to actually tie around it with the thread, white thread, which is having 4 or 3 strands. That has to be done in a very beautiful manner. They do it even today. There are very people who do it in a very nice manner. So it should be in after the thread is circulated, it will look so beautiful that it should be, the gap should be in diamond form, and it should be done in that one small one speck of grain, that is the paddy, should be accommodated. Only that much of gap should be there in a diamond form. That is how it is tied. And then you place the narikeda or the coconut on that. Then you adorn it with flowers, the kumbha or the pot. And then with the darba you actually we actually touch the edge of the coconut with darba and chant the mantras. So today they have done the experiments to find out what is the difference. So there is very, very specific difference that is noticeable in the water, because the ions of the water are charged in a very unique manner when different mantras are chanted in a positive manner. So, but further experiment, they have done it in a very primitive manner, because mantras, the chanting of mantras has not been standardized until today. So how much of gap should be there? Because if you take it in microseconds, now you say Om Namo Narayanaya. I say Om Namo Narayanaya. There is a lot of difference between these two. So how much should be the gap? How much should be Dirgha? How much should be Hraswa? Then the Udatta, Anudatta and Swarita Swaras. These have not been standardized in a very scientific manner. We depend upon what our elders are taught. That is correct. But when you say, oh, how much should it be elongated? How much should be one matra? According to Vyakarana, they say one matra is one speck. That is the time taken to blink once. That is how they have mentioned it. But how much, what, etc. That is now you can divide the second into 1/200th of a second. You see in the Olympics, you say one person has he has completed 100 meters in 9.835 seconds. Another person will say 9.856 seconds. So you are able to measure the time in such a sophisticated manner that you can divide 1 second into 200 different 200 units, what you call milliseconds or nanoseconds or whatever it is. So that way these have to be standardized properly, and then the experiments have to be conducted. But in the Agama Prama, you have the Vasudeva Punya, which I am sure you might be aware. So that is totally different from the Vaidika Punya or the Vedic Punya, which is done. So Vasudeva Punya is exclusively for temple worship, whereas Vaidika Punya is mainly for Griha Archana, where Punya Vachana has to be done before all the important events, even when the temple, even when you are doing it newly in a house or something like that, the Punya Vachana has to be done. So these are all very important rituals that are to be known properly, and then you have to do. So in the Vasudeva Punya, it is done purely with the names of Vasudeva, no Vedic mantras. Some Vedic mantras are used, of course, especially in Pancharatra. But it is done purely Shuddhaye Vasudeva, Shuddhaye Sridharashtastu. Like that, it will come, all the names of Vishnu are chanted and the Punyaha is done. So that is how it is.
So chanting of Astakshara, if the Omkara can be Rasva, Dirga, or Pluta. So is there any recommendation?
According to the Upanishads, in the Mandukya Upanishad, it says there are 4 ways of chanting Omkara. Ekamatra Kala, Dvimatra Kala, Trimatra Kala, and Sardha Trimatra Kala. That is, up to 1 Matra Kala means, as I mentioned, the Matra is defined in the Vyakarana Shastra as the time taken to blink once. The eye takes like that. But sometimes some people may blink for a fraction of a second more, which you cannot say no. Which you cannot, what is it? You cannot prohibit anybody from having a relatively longer blink. So those things have to be, now you have scientific instruments to measure these things. That is why I said in the Olympics they measure up to 200th of a second. That is, break a second into 200 units and measure that. So you have, that is why I told millisecond, and even they have gone to the extent of what they call nanosecond. It is even more subtle measurement of time. But now it is proven that the waters are charged, the ions in the water are charged in a positive manner by chanting the mantras. So how the sense of touch that is passed through from the person through the darbha grass, through the coconut to the water, that is very, very interesting. Once again, the effects of darbha grass also is measured now. So they have, even my father was involved in some experiments like that. So you can see that in the Nadi Gati, that is the, what you have the Vata Pitta Kapha, analyzing it from the point of view of Ayurveda is totally different. Analyzing it from the point of view of general health and the conduciveness of the body to receive the divine powers, that is totally different. So when it is in total disarray, the 3 nadis, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, that is, they have measured it with instruments. You have 3 or 4 nadi yantras or the nadi instruments that have been developed by the scientists now. So as soon as the darbha grass is held in the hand, immediately it will bring equilibrium to the nadis, even in a person who is greatly disturbed. And they have done the same experiment with tulasi mala, tulasi beads, and that is lotus beads. They are highly effective. They have found it. So now the science is so primitive, modern science is so primitive, that the parameters that need to be examined are not mentioned in the science at all. But today, after the advent of science, we are able to find out or authenticate or validate from the scientific point of view that what they had mentioned is very much correct. So that is why we always, while doing the puja, at least we have to have the tulasi mala, we have to have the lotus beads mala, etc. And ISKCON people regularly do it. They actually wear it continuously. But one aspect that has to be noted is, kindly don't mistake me. While we use the washroom, it should not be. One should not put it on. So that many people don't actually take care of that. But that should not. It is to be taken and kept separately. Then use the washroom. Then wash your hands, wash your feet. Then rinse your mouth, and then only it has to be put back. Because while using the washroom, if it is on, it will definitely lose its power. There is no doubt about it. That is why in nowadays, people who follow that, they will put it on only while doing puja. Because it's a laborious process. Keeping it outside, then going to the washroom, then once again coming here, putting it, etc. So suppose 6 to 7 times a person urinates in a day. All the 6 to 7 times he has to do that. which is possible if a person is at home only. But if he is in a workplace or something like that, it becomes a big problem. So it is very important to take the precautions of wearing a kanti, as they call it. It is an easy task, no doubt about that. It is very good also. But it comes with some restrictions which have to be followed. Otherwise, there will be no, it will lose its sanctity. So that is what it is.
So normally the Tulsi Mala and the Nalanaksha Mala will be kept with the puja room itself, because otherwise, yes.
That's what we all do actually.
Yeah. So I saw that Govindachari was asking some questions in the chat. So he wanted to know that Wadagalai Sri Vaishnavas are chanting Nyasa Dasakam when they start the Tiruvaradhanam, but he wants to know the Tengalai school, what should they chant?
Tengalai school of Tiruvaradhanam, we have done the Tiruvaradhana Krama in long back in an animated form. I am trying to make a video out of it. I will show that. And the entire detail of all the 6 asanas are shared there. I will show you, because offhand I am not able to recall what is place of Nyasa Dasakam, what they have to chant.
So he has a lot of questions actually. So he wants to know why rice should have salt and so many things.
Sorry.
Why rice should not have salt, upu.
Which should not have salt?
Annam, sadam, rice.
Annaprasadam, see, one very important thing is to certain deities, salt should not be offered. And also in the havis that is offered to the Agni, it should never be mixed with salt. For example, in Melkote we have an Adishesha Sannidhi, the sanctum sanctorum of Adishesha. So to Adishesha, these are all very, very subtle aspects. So if it is even though it's a Shila Murti, or it should not be mentioned like that, because it's a great apachara to say with what is this made? Is it made of wood or stone or something else? It's the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya very clearly mentions it should not be, but for the sake of our understanding. So the Shila Murtis are known as Tirumanjana Tirumenis or Abhisheka Tirumenis, where the Abhishekam can be performed. The Murtis that are made out of stone can be offered Abhishekam. If they are made out of Sudha or a specific mixture of certain things like lime, jaggery, etc., as in the case of the Ranganatha icon of Srirangam. So you cannot, that is the Mula Murti or the, what do you call it? What do you call the Mula Murti in English?
The main deity.
The main deity, that is, we call the other deity processional deity or the Utsav Murti.
The
The Mula
immovable
Murti is
deity.
the main, who is in the sanctum sanctorum, who is not movable. So that Ranganatha is not offered any abhishekam of milk, curds, etc., or even water, only Tailakap. So they anoint the deity, the icon of the deity, with the specifically made oils. So in several places there are that type of those types of icons exist. Then you have Shila Murtis that is made of stone, for which you offer the milk, do all those things like in Tirupati, Kanchipuram, etc. Then you have another type of Murtis like in Tirukurungudi and Vatapatra Shahi in I think, Shivilliputtur, etc. They are known as Varnakalapam. Varnakalapam is once again, they will have a greenish hue. If you see in Tirukurungudi and even in Tirukkovalur and many other places. Varnakalapam is another combination of so many things, but once again, you cannot offer abhishekam of milk, water, etc. So after milk, water, etc. is done, you do what is known as Antaranga Thirumanjanam, that is the abhishekam that is done behind the screen. So when you offer curds, milk, etc., that residue of the curds, milk, etc., will go and rest in some places like between the armpits, etc., of the Lord. So they have to clean the Lord. It is not done openly, but inside. Only the archakas and the assistants will be there. They do it with hot water because it has milk and other things. They have this fat content. So if the fat content has to be removed, you have to use hot water. Otherwise, the fat content will not go. So that is known as Antaranga Thirumanjana or Abhishekam, that is done within behind the screens. That is, it's not known because they have to wipe the Divya Mangala Vigraha icon of the Lord with certain brush, etc., which is specifically made for that purpose. So they are all done within the screen or behind the screen, which is not visible to the general public for obvious reasons. But when it is done for Adishesha, hot water is not used. Because a cobra is allergic to hot water. The cobra, you should not use that word. It will lose its life if you use hot water to bathe a cobra. So for Adishesha specifically, hot water is not used even to remove the fat content or etc. That is why even only milk is used, curds is not used. These are all practical aspects that one has to take care of. Along with the religious aspects, these are embedded also. Then for offering Adishesha, a snake will not, it can consumes milk and other things. But if it is laced with salt, traditionally snakes are not supposed to. Snake means a cobra only, that is the Adishesha. Not we don't refer to the anacondas or pythons or others. They are not considered to be sacred. Only the Nagara or the hooded serpent is known as the cobra or the king cobra. That is considered sacred. There is a lot of science behind it. Because the cobra or a king cobra will bite only if it is destined to do so. It is very, very important. It is there is a lot of science behind it. Ayurveda has different, this is different. Again, that has to be explained in great detail. So a cobra cannot actually partake food that is mixed with salt. So even today, and even no spices, no seasoning, no seasoning with hot oil and spices like chilies and mustard, etc. So for curd rice, generally, we actually garnish it with coriander, then dry ginger powder, etc. And also roast the mustard in hot oil and put it to the thing, and it becomes very tasty. But that is exclusively offered to Adishesha in main kote. No garnishing, no salt, no mustard, no oil, no heating the oil and putting the mustard in it and adding it. So it is known as bakal bath or something like that, where you add sugar to curd rice. So it depends on the person who is consuming it. Similarly, in the yajnas, when havis, that is rice, is offered, even in the homas, like Sudarshana Homa, Narasimha Homa, or the other homas that is done, only you offer gudanna or the rice that is mixed with jaggery. Salt should never be added. Therefore, even in pranahuti, salt should not be added. Because it is being offered to the fire. Whatever is offered to the fire should not consist of salt. That is acceptable to both Janachari Sampradaya and Vadagalai Sampradaya. But they will say, don't put it in the leaf also before pranahuti. Don't put it in the leaf before offering pranahuti. So that is why they will add all the that is the side items like curry, etc. after the pranahuti is done. But in Tengalai Sampradaya, you can add everything, but that should not be taken as part of pranahuti. As pranahuti, you should take only rice and ghee.
Right. So I understand that. So Govindachar is saying he's very interested if we could have some other session with you. Maybe you could do a video of Tiruvaradanam or go through the different points. I don't know if anybody else has any other detailed questions. He has a lot of questions that probably we don't have time. So yes. Can I just ask one other question completely off topic? Somebody else who couldn't come to the class asked me about Ganda Berunda.
And what is the matter regarding that?
Yeah, because in Mysore you have the two-headed bird, and they call it Ganda Berunda, and you also have this idea of Astamukha Ganda Berunda, a form of Narasimha. And what is the relationship between the two-headed bird and the eight-headed Narasimha? And where are these things found in Shastras?
It's a controversial topic because let us see, I will mention it some other time. It has to be explained in great detail. So I will let you know about that.
Right.
It's very significant, very, very important.
Yeah. I was asking Dr. Tirunarayan in Sri Rangam. I said to him, there is a Sharabha Upanishad in the list of 108 Upanishads, which comes in Muktika Upanishad. One of them is Sharabha Upanishad. So if there is a Sharabha Upanishad, does it mean there is a Sharabha? And he said, we don't like Sharabha, we don't accept Sharabha. And then I said, but we accept Ganda Berunda, Astamukha Ganda Berunda, Narasimha, because I've seen pictures in Sri Rangam on the wall of Ganda Berunda. But if we accept Ganda Berunda is supposed to be killing Sharabha. So how can we must accept Sharabha also if we accept Ganda Berunda?
You're absolutely right. That I'll explain in detail separately because my guru has specifically told about that.
Yeah, and also Dr. Iyengar, who lives very close to you in Mysore, he also is an expert in iconography. We try to ask him these questions, but
he's an expert in iconography, but this is to do with the spirit behind what it is that he will not be able to know. Not that we disrespect him, we respect him, of course, but there's a totally different dimension altogether.
So, Swami, if you want to give an exposition about Narasimha and Astamukha Ganda Berunda, I can get a lot of people interested to come and listen to you. No. If you want to do that.
No, I know a little about it, in the sense of the spirit, but if I had to give a detailed exposition, even I had to prepare myself. I am talking about what Sharabha Tantra, Sharabha is, what is Ganda Berunda, etc. is. That we can discuss separately. Let us see. You remind me sometime later, then we can see. But it's a very interesting topic, but you should not see it from the one key I will tell you, then later we can discuss. don't see it from the classes of Vaishnava or Shaiva. We have to remove the Vaishnava classes or Shaiva classes and then see. That is the key to Gandabear. I can keep it as that.
Thank you very
So
much,
can we
Swami.
conclude or
Yeah, we can conclude, but what I was going to say was, I think some of the participants, they want to have more access to you, to your knowledge about some practical issues, concerning
let us see.
Tiruvaradanam and these things.
You can just let me know a concise email, not very long email. Just bullet points, what you want to know more and how.
Right.
Then we can discuss and see.
Right.
So Ram Srinivas, any reactions? Why I am asking Ram Srinivas is a very, as I know, of course, many of you might be, but he is a very devout performer of Tiruvaradanam. That is why I am asking you.
Adiyan Dasan Namaskaram. No, thank you very much
Switch
for the
on your
kind
camera
words.
so that we can see you.
Yes, Adiyan. Sorry, I'm actually in a little bit of a t-shirt kind of a dress. Please forgive me, Swami. No, I think the tribute should be to you because you are the one, and of course, Lakshmi Tatachar Swami was the one who actually initiated me into the Tiruvaradhana Kramam. So thank you about that.
Okay. Because you might have had some questions that were answered today, so I thought I just asked you.
No, actually, I have some questions, but considering the time, I just reserved my comments on that. Since it's already 10:20, so I thought I had written about 4 questions, but then I thought I'll ask you probably in the next class.
Yes. So, any other thing, or we can conclude?
Yeah, we can conclude, Swami. Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Nachet Ramam Jetyesha Chatura Chaturakshari Kamavastham Prapadyante Jantavo Antamadrisha Punyam Bhoja Vikasaya Papadhvam Takshayaya Cha Shriman Avirabhut Bhumau Ramanuja Divakaraha Nikruta Virinchari Nirankusha Vibhutayaha Ramanjabaram Bodhama Shrena Shavinaha.
Thank you very much, Swami. Very interesting class.
Namaskara, Swami.